Welcome to another WalterFootball.com video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst. Before we get started here, I recommend that you click on the settings here, speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5. I think that makes these videos a lot better. So, let's get into the Detroit Lions firing of Bob Quinn and head coach Matt Patricia. If you look in the comments section below, I'll link to some videos I produced earlier about good general manager and good head coaching candidates for these teams and for the others that have started the change process already. So you might want to check those out just to get a list of guys that could be really good upgrades for Detroit. And I really applaud the Lions ownership for making the move. I think it really should have been done earlier, last year even, but they gave them another chance. I don't fault them too much for that because continuity is important in the NFL. You want time for the schemes and players to grow and to fill out that scheme with the right talent. So I don't blame them too much for that. But it was the right move because obviously the Lions are terrible. They got destroyed on Thanksgiving by the Texans. I think the loss 4 days earlier to the Panthers was even uglier because Carolina was without their starting quarterback in Bridgewater. Their star best player in Christian McCaffrey was out. Their best cornerback in Dante Jackson was out. Their left tackle, Russell Okung, was out. And yet Carolina absolutely destroyed them 20-0 in an ugly game, losing to a bunch of backups in the NFL. That's just horribly embarrassing for the Lions, and I think that was really the final straw. They were just waiting to get through Thursday with the short week before making the move. Now, there are some lessons to be learned from the bad Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia era with the Lions. Number one, I think, is draft elite talent. I think the Lions were a bit too conservative in the draft overall. I think they went for guys that were solid players, too safe to an extent, not looking to hit a home run, but were just looking to not get a bust. And as a result, I think the Lions really lack elite talent all throughout their roster. I think right now, if you look at their roster, you could say Matthew Stafford's a really good player, Kenny Golladay is a really good player, albeit both of those guys have had injury issues. But outside of those two, you really can't point to anyone else and say that is a really good player. You have some solid players like, say, Trey Flowers, and obviously this rookie class, it's too early to make any judgments on Jeff Okudah or DeAndre Swift. Okudah's had some struggles. That's not abnormal for cornerbacks going into the NFL. It's a tough position to play right away. Need developmental time. Running back is a position that it's easier to hit the ground running, and Swift has flashed and looked good at times. But still, in that division with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, the Vikings have typically fielded tough defenses under Mike Zimmer. You got to have elite talent. And they've just played it way too safe in the draft. The TJ Hawkinson pick, for example, if you're going to take a tight end in the top 10, he's got to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I mean, that's just a given if you're going to take a guy at that position that high. And yet Hawkinson is a solid tight end, but he doesn't look like he's going to be among the elite in the NFL. He doesn't look like a Kelsey, a Kittle, or Darren Waller. He doesn't look as good as those players. He looks more in the solid range. He'll be a Austin Hooper, Ertz caliber tight end, which is a really good player, don't get me wrong, a nice player to have, an asset on the roster, but not an elite player. And when you're picking in the top 10, you need to get an elite talent. And the interesting thing about the Hawkinson pick was teams across the league, a bunch of teams told me they didn't have as high a grade on Hawkinson as they had on O.J. Howard in 2017 or Eric Ebron in 2014. Yet the Lions took Hawkinson higher than where those guys went. Oddly enough, the amount of tight ends Detroit has taken in the past decade in the first round is ridiculous. Between Hawkinson, Ebron, Pettigrew, I mean, that's just absurd amount of resources to be putting into that position. So, anyways, you have to draft more elite talent, guys that are going to be change makers, difference makers on Sunday. This regime also neglected the defensive line. They have journeyman defensive tackles. Trey Flowers has been a nice end. The Notre Dame guy, the other end, name's escaping me at the moment. Nice player. See if he's re-signed, but they just have not really put the resources there to get elite talent. And they've had money. They could have gone after free agents this past offseason. They had the cap room to do it, and they chose not to. So I think neglecting the defensive line in that division, again, with Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, you just cannot neglect one of the most important positions in the NFL. And for whatever reason, they did it. Maybe Matt Patricia, my guess from the outside is Matt Patricia thought so much of his schemes that they felt they could get by with a bunch of solid guys that he would out scheme, and all the rest. There are coaches that get too enthralled with their own abilities or presumed abilities, and think they can just scheme so well that they can get by with marginal talent. And I just am not a big believer in that being a real philosophy to live by in the NFL. So those, I think, are key lessons to learn from the Lions, but they were the ownership was smart to do the firing now, no doubt about it. You want to get ahead of the other teams in the league, and you want to close that gap with the teams that have already fired their GMs, the Texans and the Falcons, because you don't want to miss out on, say, one of the top candidates because you were just wasting time giving, the last 5-6 games to a regime that you're going to fire. By doing the firing now, you can start the interview process, you can identify your top candidate, you can go and get that guy rather than losing possibly out on him taking another job elsewhere because you were just wasting time with guys that you were going to fire anyway. So that is an interesting point as far as the teams that might change at general manager. Obviously, the Jaguars need a new GM. Dave Caldwell's horrible, has blown so many picks there. His bad picks have led to other bad picks. If you want, check out the video I did on that, on how one draft mistake can cause a domino effect that leads to more. So definitely the Jaguars need an upgrade at GM. I've heard stuff that Dave Gettleman with the Giants might be done. He might not survive this season. So if the ownership of those two teams are going to make a change, especially the Jaguars, you should do it now so you can be interviewing the same top candidates that these other teams are, the Falcons, the Texans, and now the Lions. You don't want to be stuck with the B list. So definitely, if the Jags and Giants are going to make a change, you better hop to it because you could lose out on the GM you want. And also, it can cause you losing out on the head coach. Now, the Giants aren't going to probably fire their head coach after this season, but the Jags probably will. So if you're slow on making the GM move, then that delays the head coaching move. Other teams are going to probably jump in the coaching carousel as well. So definitely, the slower you are, it comes back to bite you. So the Jags and Giants, the clock is ticking on your GM openings if you're going to do it. So we have 3 GM openings as of now, as of Thanksgiving weekend and into the next week here. And so far, from what I've heard and seen, Atlanta's been the most aggressive about filling that general manager opening. That doesn't surprise me because I think Arthur Blank is a more competent owner, definitely a more competent owner than Cal McNair is with the Texans. He seems almost clueless to me. And then, obviously letting what he allowed Bill O'Brien to do that to that roster is just shameful. He's really made the next GM's job much more difficult in terms of building around Deshaun Watson. And just because you have Deshaun Watson doesn't guarantee you anything. It doesn't guarantee you becoming a championship team. There have been plenty of great quarterbacks in the NFL who had great careers but never won the Super Bowl. Ask Dan Marino or Jim Kelly or Warren Moon, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, never won a Super Bowl. great players, amazing players. Even look at the NFL right now, a lot of good quarterbacks who have had really good careers but haven't won a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers, Stafford, Matt Ryan. So, just because they have Deshaun Watson there for a long time, presumably, doesn't guarantee anything. So they have to get this GM hire right. They need to get a good coaching staff in place. But Atlanta's been the most aggressive. I think it wouldn't surprise me if they end up making the best GM hire because of that, because they're being the most proactive at filling that vacancy. And I think Arthur Blank will be aggressive to do what it takes to get the best candidate there. So right now, I think Atlanta's in the driver's seat in terms of this GM carousel, which I'm really interested in, and a lot of the scouting community is really interested in. This, for me, is more important than the head coaching hires, because the GMs are really the ones who make the franchise go in terms of drafts, free agents, contracts, and they put the pieces in place for a quality coaching staff to put a team over the top. So anyways, good move by the Lions, smart move there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our channel. We're new and we're growing, but we need the help. Subscribe to share it, like it, pass it around to your friends. I'd really appreciate it. Check our links below for our mocks, position rankings, and a whole lot more. And I'll be back with you guys soon. Oh, and one last thing. I think I'm going to do a mailbag video. I've been getting emails from you guys answering questions. So you can email me at draftcampbell@gmail.com, and I'll do a mailbag video here before long. I want to share these answers that I'm given with all of you guys. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Take care, be safe, and I'll be back with you soon. Thanks.